Well, thanks very much for watching the latest Goodwin Boxing Fight Show programme. It's Monday the 25th of November, and today I'm joined by my son Josh Goodwin as we discuss all things boxing. We're going to be looking at the Groves-Froch fight from the weekend. We're going to be looking at the Goodwin boxing fighters and what titles they're heading for and how some of them are manoeuvring their careers in the right direction and what's next for them. We're going to just discuss a couple of our latest signings. We're going to discuss the 30th of November show at the Copper Box. And we're going to then go into detail about our next show on the 7th of December. That's the Lionheart and Braveheart show at York Hall, Bethnal Green, which is a show that I am promoting. So a lot to get through in this show, but let's firstly start by looking at the Groves-Froch situation. I mean, just before I give my opinion, Josh, what was your overall opinion on it and what happened?
I thought Groves was superb throughout the whole fight. The ref just jumped in way too early. I think Groves could have easily gone on to box his way to victory, but the judges' scorecards were a lot closer than I had it.
I mean, the thing is with those scorecards, Froch was definitely coming on stronger, and the way it was scored, that even if it had gone, if Groves had survived that onslaught, he would have lost on points, which would have been unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, especially with the knockdown in the first as well.
I mean, how on earth these judges can give scorecards like that and be allowed to judge again is beyond me. I mean, I thought it's inept. I think you could take 100 people and nobody would have scored it that way. So you've got to ask the questions as to how from ringside can two of the judges have both scored it only one round ahead for George Groves at the time of the stoppage. I just think it's the most unbelievable thing I've seen.
Yeah, I personally had Groves 3 or 4 rounds up at that point, but everyone, boxing is an opinionated sport, so it's all about how you see a fight.
But do you think there's any justification for professional judges having that opinion?
Personally, no.
I mean, it's just unbelievable, and for me, I think questions need to be asked more of the judging than the referee. I mean, the referee, Howard Foster's a well-respected man in boxing. People I've spoken to would say that his integrity is not questioned, and he took a view. I don't think it was the right decision to make. I mean, I think we've seen a worse stoppage. I think if you remember the Enzo Macronelli Oval McKenzie first fight when Macronelli was stopped, I think that was a far worse stoppage than Groves. And I think sometimes the referee stopped that Macronelli fight based on who Macronelli was, and they were worried about him, and possibly with Groves because he took a few shots, he jumped in a bit early. But for me, the whole thing that I really am unhappy with is the judging, and I think it's a disgrace. And I mean, after the fight, they started talking about a rematch, but now it appears that they're really trying to backtrack from it. Froch says it's up to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn says it's up to Froch. That therefore means that from the boxer's point of view, he's looking for a way not to make that fight. I mean, how do you read that?
I think Froch has got a lot of bigger fights out there. Andre Ward, for example, a rematch there, or Kessler third match.
Would you think Kessler a third match? Who wants to watch that? I don't want to watch it. I mean, Kessler's definitely on the way down. I mean, Froch, I think, he's sliding. I mean, I just don't see that fight. And Andre Ward, yeah, you can go and watch it, but Andre Ward will just school him, in my opinion. I don't think he's got a hope in hell against Andre Ward. If you can't handle George Groves, how on earth are you going to handle Andre Ward?
True.
So I personally don't see them as bigger fights. I see them as, I think if Froch wants to go for the Andre Ward fight, then I think that's fair dues to him. But any other fight other than fighting George Groves, I just feel the public won't buy into it. So I hope that he has a rematch with Groves or takes on Andre Ward. But personally, I would like to see Carl Froch retire. I think he's been fantastic for British boxing. But I think, like Joe Calzaghe knew when the right time was to go, I think the signs here that it's the right time to go for Carl Froch.
I don't quite see it that extreme, but
you don't. You think he's
yeah, he's always struggled with people with a bit of speed and moves. Look back to the Andre Durrell fight a few years ago. Should you said he should have retired after that?
No, but I thought he took a lot of punishment though in this fight. A lot of punishment.
Took a lot of punishment in his last fight.
Durrell didn't put him down though, did he?
But George Groves does have serious power.
Well, that's what boxing's about. Different opinions. The only time I don't think we can have different opinions is with the judges. I'd like to see Carl Froch retire. Josh doesn't, so we'll see how that lies. But I hope he doesn't try and go for a fight other than Andre Ward or George Groves. Well, news on the Goodwin boxers. Ian Lewison was due to fight John McDermott on the 30th of November for the English title on a Frank Warren promotion. Unfortunately, John McDermott pulled out with an injured ankle. It is frustrating. John McDermott has got a history of pulling out of quite a few fights, so it's quite frustrating for Ian that. But obviously they'll hope to make that probably in February. Let's hope that John McDermott turns up for the fight. Manny Edwards has got an English title shot with Matty Askin. The purse bid was won by Hatton Promotions. That's due to be staged by the end of February. I spoke to Richard Poxon today, and we're looking at sorting out a date for that at the moment. Richard Comey, our lightweight, he faces the Commonwealth champion Derry Matthews on the 6th of March at Liverpool, providing that Derry Matthews doesn't vacate. My view is that if Derry beats Stephen Ormond and gets a top 15 WBO world ranking, it may be a banana skin he wants to avoid, but Derry will have to do what's right for him. But if not, he faces Richard Comey, and I think it's a fight that Richard Comey wins. And we were offered a Commonwealth title shot for Lee Markham, but at the moment with Lee we're on our own path, and we're going to be talking more about Lee later on here. I think Lee will be 12 months time really competing for the big titles, but we don't want to rush our fighters here. We want to deliver title fights when they are ready to win, and that's the key. But I think we're doing great guns here with 2 fighters on English title fights, 1 fighting for the Commonwealth title, and we've got a lot of great fighters coming through. Now, we've signed quite a few boxers lately, and I've done both from a management point of view and a promotional point of view. Of the ones that we signed in the last few months, Josh, which boxers have you been either most impressed in seeing fight, or are you most looking forward to see making their debuts?
I'm really looking forward to seeing Brett Beeden fight again.
Yeah.
I think he's could be something very special. And I'm liking the way AJ Carter's coming along as well as a pro.
Yeah, I mean AJ Carter only had 5 amateur fights, and I think his last performance against Radek Linker was his best yet, wasn't he? He stopped Linker in 2 rounds. Linker took Matt Leg the whole distance, and AJ just absolutely demolished him. I think he's a guy with the right attitude, and he's out again on December the 7th, so we'll talk about AJ again in a minute. And Brett Beeden, what a fight against Rhys Saunders. If you haven't watched it, go and have a look at it on YouTube. And Brett's out again. He now takes on Jan Hollick, who's won 3 from 4. I think Brett Beeden is a potential superstar of boxing in the future, and we're delighted to be working alongside him. So he's very exciting. And we've got some others. I thought Justin Menzie had his first fight 2 weeks ago. I thought he was very exciting at light middle, wasn't he? The Genie. And there's plenty of others that we've got coming through, which is, if you watch this channel, we'll be discussing them. You'll be seeing their fights and their interviews as time goes along. So that was good. This weekend at the Copper Box, I can't say that I'm absolutely ecstatic about this show. It doesn't sort of jump off the page to me. The fight I like is actually none of the top 2. I like the fight Bradley Skeets Colin Lyons. What do you think?
That'll be a good fight. I think Colin Lyons is a few years past his best. I think Bradley Skeets is the up and comer here.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I know Alan Smith well, who trains Bradley, and it's a fight that Alan thinks that Bradley's going to win. But I have been speaking to a lot of people who've got different opinions, who think that Colin Lyons is going to take Bradley to school. But I think it's a really good fight, and that's the key about the fight. I think the Chisora and Cleverly fights are pretty much one-sided fights, and they're formalities for them before going on to bigger things. Do you not agree?
Yeah, just the only difference is with Cleverly is whether the move up to cruiser will be maybe a step too far for him in terms of the weight.
But if it is, I don't think it's going to be exposed on this fight. I think that will be exposed.
No, that's why it's going to be interesting to see how he handles the
extra weight against him. Yeah. But anyway, so the Copper Box is on this week, and then on the 7th we've got Darren Barker fighting Felix Stern for the world title in Germany. And closer to home, we've got our show, which is the Lionheart and Braveheart show, where we've got plenty of fights, 3 title fights, and lots of prospects. So let's run through the title fights, Josh, first on our Lionheart and Braveheart show. Lee Markham, Sam Cousins. Lee Markham is fighting at super middleweight at the moment, but he will drop down to middleweight when we're going to go for bigger titles. But he feels happier at this stage fighting at super middle. Sam Cousins is a former Southern Area champion, and they're fighting over a 12-round distance for the Masters Gold title. And how do you see that fight?
Mark is never in a bad fight due to his come forward style, but I expect him to win on points.
You think it'll go the distance?
Yeah.
I mean, the fight potentially of the night, the one is the Philip Bowes Paul Appleby fight. We've got Philip Bowes, who's managed by Mickey Amu at the SW gym in Loughton. He has taken on former British champion Paul Appleby in only his 7th fight, and I think that's a brave fight to take. I mean, rather than just try and build up his O against people that are cannon fodder. He wants to now start to move on his career, and this is what I like to see in boxers, not just building up the zero, trying to take on Paul Appleby. And Appleby will be coming to fight. Do you not think that'll be a great fight?
I think that's going to be fight of the night.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, Phil hasn't got a great punching power. He's only stopped one of his 6 wins by stoppage. So, do you see it being a points win? Or
yeah, points win.
But
it'll be close. I think it'll be close.
Do you think Paul Appleby will give him plenty of trouble?
Yeah.
And I think that's a great fight. And it's Lionheart and Braveheart, because we've got a couple of Scottish, one past, one potentially past, one present. We've also got John McCallum from Edinburgh, who's one of our recent signings. He comes down from Edinburgh and he competes in a Masters title fight against the Baltic champion Adam Grabiak. Now John's only had 5 fights. This is his 6th fight. I mean, really, we're expecting John to win and get his first title, aren't we?
Yeah, on points most likely as
you
well.
Think fancy that on points? And the other title fight is Chris Aguiadua, who has been so unlucky in his 2 Southern Area title fights with Nathan Graham. Chris takes on the Czech Jan Balog for the Masters title over 10 rounds. Now, Balog's recent record is very good. He's won 4 of his last 5 fights. He's very tough. I remember seeing Jan Balog give Michael Norgrove, the late Michael Norgrove, an horrific time back at Dagenham a few years ago. He's very, very tough indeed. Chris fought for the Southern Area title last December against Nathan Graham, and he dislocated his shoulder, so it was a pretty awful night for him. But this is his chance now to get his first title and then move on to the Southern Area title level. Do you have any opinion on that fight at all?
It'll just be interesting to see if Chris's shoulder holds up and the injury doesn't come back, but hopefully he'll get back to carry on winning. So
yeah, I mean, it's a good fight for Chris, and hopefully he'll get himself a decent Southern Area champion. He's got a good manager with Richard Clark, so hopefully they'll be able to work that for him and get him a title shot next year. Of the rest of the undercard, we've got Lewis Petit, who has a 6-rounder against a guy called Rogowski from Poland, who's won 6 from 10. That's going to be a decent fight. Johnny Garton, the Mexican, he takes on Stanislav Nenkov, who's won 7 from 11. So we're talking about here guys with positive records coming in against these prospects, which is going to be good. George Jupp, he takes on Christian Dochev. John Cash, who's supposed to be very special, I'm looking forward to seeing him. He makes his debut at light middleweight. He's middleweight. He's trained by James Paisley. David Leo, the Lionheart himself, he has a 4-round fight. He looked good against Graham Fern first time out, amongst others. And we've got AJ Carter fighting again for the 5th time this year. He takes on Luke Martin. Are you expecting another AJ win?
yeah, most likely, yeah.
I mean, he is looking good and he's improving massively. I'm excited to see the debut of Craig Hardy. Craig was a previous fighter with Queensbury. That's the Ross Minter show on that you see on Eurosport. Now he's turning professional and he has his first fight. And I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's got good support, and we are going to be seeing Brett Beaton again, who fights at Jan Hollick. Now, for those of you coming, the show has been moved to 4:30 start, so it's going to be an action-packed show from 4:30 to late. So make sure you don't turn up late for that show. It's going to be action-packed all through the night. Well, we'll be back with another show next Monday. We're going to look next Monday at how the Chisora Cleverley and the Bradley Skeet fight has gone on. We'll discuss all things boxing in the UK over the weekend. But until then, if you want to come down to the Lionheart Braveheart show, there's a few tickets left. You can get them online or from any of the boxers taking part. So there's plenty of them to buy from. So thanks a lot for watching, and we'll be back next week.